Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in to Front of the Line with Jack Kilby. Today I am extremely fortunate to be talking to my good friend, mentor, older brother, trumpet player in my band, Mr. John Dirth, all the way from Charlottesville, Virginia. John, thanks for joining us today.
Great to talk to you, Jack, as always.
And so how's everything going down there? You know I miss it.
It's beautiful today. It's not hot, beautiful weather outside. I am freaking out trying to sell a house, trying to write music, do 60 gigs, meet with everybody I'm supposed to meet with, and remember everything I'm supposed to remember. So it's just a normal day in Charlottesville, basically.
Right. And very much a normal day in the life of any musician, you know, or any full-time musician.
That's true.
Where you're having to juggle.
Yeah, no kidding, man. We have to do everything plus.
Yep.
You have to forge your own path in music. That's the only way, and you do it every day.
Sure. And so one of these things is today's Thursday, and so one of those things that you do, and one of the things that was so important to me in my time in Charlottesville is your regular Thursday gig at Miller's. That's every night. So you're playing tonight?
Yeah, man.
I imagine as
tonight
you have
we are
the
playing.
last 30 years at least.
We don't even know. I mean, nobody will say because we can't remember when we started doing this gig, but it's like a lot of the musicians who play with us now weren't born when we started the gig, that's for sure. But anyway, like yourself, Jack. But anyway, yeah, tonight at Miller's is going to be interesting because I've got to really pull the gig together tonight. We're usually very, ad hoc, and we are very open to people coming in and joining us. But we have a great gig on Saturday. We're going to play the Salem Jazz Festival and down below Roanoke or near Roanoke. And so tonight is going to be sort of like rehearsal for that, try to look at the tunes we're going to actually do on that gig and try to do some things we don't usually do. You know how you never can find time to rehearse. You've been amazing with that. You've really been very stick-to-itive with your game plan for your record. I mean, I really admire that, Jack.
Oh, man. I learned from you, man, and so many of the other great folks down there.
Not exactly. I learn a lot from younger people now because they're very focused and know how to use all this infrastructure that's available to us now. And I don't. I'm really a Luddite, and I really struggle with technology, and I struggle culturally with it, too. I mean, as an old, grumpy guy, I get very, very freaked out by the things I see going on in social media in general, politics, communications. On the other hand, I know that this is the way to connect in a much more democratic way with all kinds of people, and it's a reason that we're able to do more conscious activism together. I mean, this country is in need of a lot. The music we play, Jack, if we just knew this music, if everybody knew it and listened to it, we wouldn't have half the problems we have in this country. You know, one time I was listening to Billie Holiday talk at the end of her life at Carnegie Hall about how she never sang a song the same way twice, never the same tempo. And when she sang a song, when I sing a song, that's my life. I had to pull over when I heard that because I couldn't see the road just hearing her voice say those things. But I'll tell you, if 95% of the people in this country had the same reaction, we probably wouldn't be experiencing racism as we do.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's so much of what I can hear that in your playing. And the one thing that to me separates you from so many of the other musicians that I hear, particularly trumpet players, is that you are so in the moment when you play. You know, and that's consistently something that I've gotten from you too, and to remember, you know, that like you're playing just like where you are then, you know.
Trying.
Right. With all these other things. It's funny, I just pulled out Zen in the Art of Archery the other day as I was moving stuff around here in my studio and was reminded that I need to dig back into that book. The greatest trumpet book
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, you're a trumpet player, Jack. Maybe your listeners don't know that about you, but you're a killing trumpet player and a learning trumpet player. And, you know, that was what the great Carmine Caruso told me in New York when I studied with him. He said, "Kid, you ever see this book, Zen in the Art of Archery? It's the best book on trumpet you'll ever read." And it was true. It was true. It's about shooting a bow and arrow. But quite a good metaphor for what we're trying to do here.
Right, for sure.
I liken playing the trumpet. I liken playing brass instruments and playing the trumpet to just, you have to apply the same techniques that you apply when you walk through a wall. We all know how to do that. You know, you just line up your molecules with the spaces between the molecules and the wall and just walk through. But that's how you have to organize yourself when you play the trumpet, too, because it's a big wall, you know. Another teacher of mine used to say, weakness is my friend, strength is my enemy, Vince Penzarella, and that's a huge thing for trumpet, as you know.
Yeah.
You got to lift 1,000 pounds without feeling effort.
Right.
That's trumpet. Anyway.
Yeah, it's so hard.
That's another thing I got to do today, practice my trumpet. Oh, fuck. Okay.
Right,
anyway.
And then that's the thing, you know, and isn't it a sort of a shame that that's the thing that always gets booted to last, you know? We got to do all this stuff, especially with, you know, as you talk about for, you know, the younger savvy tech musicians like myself, like, you know, curating that daily social media post every day to create the buzz, right? But so, unfortunately, as a result of doing these things, like the playing is what's last, you know? And so, how do you deal with that at the gig?
You know, what's often last is anything you're going to do for yourself, which practicing and dealing with your instrument is doing for yourself. I had a great friend who told me once, put your own mask on first. Like they say on the airplane, if you're helping children and old people with oxygen, put your own mask on first. And in a way, that's what practicing is all about. But I go with Dizzy's thing on trumpet. He said it's very important to warm up properly, and it's also really important not to have to warm up. Just be able to play. And I am experiencing a little more of that than I'd like, but that is definitely possible to do. And, you know, the fact is, I'll be honest, you know, since you're talking to me, I feel funny because people think that I'm such a trumpet player, but, I mean, you know, millions of cats play circles around me. I don't really know how I do it. And I've learned that it's very intuitive and that if I try to figure it out too much, it doesn't really work for me. It's more like being there. Just show up and be there, like you're saying, be in the moment. Be in the moment with the playing, too, which means always do basic things, like take a breath, support it,
right,
and hear everything in your head. Because, again, Vince Penzarella told me the greatest thing that a music teacher has ever taught me, never listen to what comes out of your instrument. It's too late to do anything about it. Hear everything in your head and play along with the only place music can be perfect, in your head.
Right. Yo, when you told me that really smacked me across the face. I remember a distinct night at Miller's on the set break when you told me that. And, man, I mean, it makes perfect sense when you think about it, you know, the feedback loop of sound, right? But just totally, as one who, you know, tends to overthink, you know, that was so great to just be like, yeah, I mean, just go.
Well, you see it in the practice room all the time with little kids. When you're giving a lesson to a kid, a lot of times they'll make their mistake right after they've had a really fabulous run on the exercise, and they're almost at the end, and they're thinking, wow, I'm going to do this without a mistake. And the minute they think that's not a mistake. But if they just keep singing, and you can really we can train ourselves to do this. It's just it's a mental discipline. It's a meditation technique. It's part of mindfulness, which is, you know, separating the brilliance of Buddhism from the religion and just getting into the science. But of course, and I'm no Buddhist, as you know, I'm just a fan of religion in general. It's people I hate. No, but, you know, religion, you can learn so much from it, you know, if we don't distort it. But the Dalai Lama himself said that Buddhism was not a religion. He said it's a science of the mind. And they take this mindful, these scientists have studied it and really, you know, drawn incredible conclusions about human action, which the Zen people were trying to teach. It was all about action. And, you know, my favorite quote from Hemingway is, never confuse motion with action. Never mistake motion for action. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I live by these quotes, man. All I got to do is read something like that, Jack, and I'm good. You know, I just apply that. I just try. I try hard. And then I just go, see all that motion? I'll tell you another quote that I learned from Krishnamurti, who a lot of the musicians in New York were really studying Krishnamurti in the 60s and 70s, and he's a writer. You know, you can Google him and find out. He was a teacher who wouldn't take students. He didn't take disciples. People just showed up and asked him questions, and he'd talk. But he said, never try to change. You'll only change in the way of the thing you're trying to change. And he used kind of a stupid example. He said, if you think you're stupid, you're only going to change that in a stupid way. He said, the way to change is to observe the thing you're trying to change relentlessly and it will change. I will say this about music, practicing sometimes is overrated. Even the great trumpet player Bud Herseth came out a few years ago and said, we're practicing too much. Practice 45 minutes 3 times a day. That's perfect. And in a way, what I've found is I think I've made most of my practice singing and most of my progress singing or singing in my head, singing solos, singing music, hearing stuff that I'm writing, whatever. You just work in your head. It's all neurological. It has to happen to the organism.
Yeah, more people need to remember we are biological organisms, despite all this technology that we're surrounded by, I think that level of awareness, too, would also bring some level of peace to the discord that's existing, we've kind of forgotten that we all need to, eat, and have and be with our families and,
I do forget
to have somewhere to sleep, right? Speaking of singing, I wanted to take a minute to show the listeners your original composition that is on the record.
Okay.
From your opera, Sacred Profanity, and it's called Sensitive Like Ladies.
Do you want to?
Right. It was so fun to be a part of. So John was able to put together through the Charlottesville Live Art, what did they call it, like a project or a rehearsal, a sort of workshop?
Oh, New Works on Fire, so we worked
New Works on Fire, right, and workshopping his opera, Sacred Profanity. And I'll let you maybe just briefly say something about Sacred Profanity and maybe the premise of this tune, Sensitive Like Ladies.
Yes, sure enough. Well, both of these things, Sacred Profanity, which is the name of my opera, and then also the whole idea of being sensitive like ladies, both come from jazz musicians. I got the idea of Sacred Profanity from Miles, and in the opera, the chorus sings this quote by Miles that I sort of stole from his autobiography, and I thought I had memorized the quote, but now I can't find it, but I'm wondering if maybe subsequent editions change things or whatever could be edited out. But I remember reading this from Miles somewhere, and I was so struck by it that I quoted it. I memorized it. It contains sacred profanity, and sacred profanity is what jazz musicians use, because what do you call somebody who you love in music? A motherfucker. So that's sacred profanity. So anyway, Miles says, more great music and musicians have been lost through the ignorance of critics and through the musicians themselves not being strong in the ability, as I am, to say, fuck y'all. And you may remember us singing fuck y'all at the top of our voices in 4-part harmony. Amen. Right. Fuck y'all, amen. And then we ended with We Love You All.
Right, with a chorus full of, how young was the younger Kelly kid that was in the chorus? We had
I think he was 13. He was 13, but we did deep vetting with the parents before we included these kids in Sacred Profanity.
Right. Sure, but it all goes to show how much they appreciate the true history of the music, and all that. But
exactly.
Lester Young.
And the true history of life. Well, Prez, too, he was an ambiguous man. He fathered 4 sons, but he was a very, very, very different kind of cat. He was just a mysterious man. And we all know that he called everybody lady. If he liked you, he called you lady. And he named Billie Holiday Lady Day. She named him the president. Lester Young is Prez. But the way this whole lady thing started was I heard it in an interview years later. That French critic was interviewing him. I don't remember his name. And I memorized this one too. And he says, we